What if I told you there are not one or two ways to retire early, but 15 different strategies? Most people hear early retirement and imagine one path: save aggressively, invest in index funds, hit a magic number, and finally tell their boss they are done. That path exists, but it is not the only path. Some people retire early by building a business. Some do it by living extremely cheaply. Some move to a lower-cost city or country. Some work part-time. Some use rental properties. Some live off dividends. Some take the slow and sustainable route and retire in their late 50s instead of their late 60s. So let's put every strategy on a timeline, from year 0 to year 30. The closer it is to the left, the faster it can work. The closer it is to the right, the slower but often more stable it becomes. Let's assume someone earns $100,000 per year. You can adjust the numbers based on your own income. The first strategy is traditional FIRE, financial independence, retire early. This is the classic version. You save 30 to 50% of your income, invest in low-cost index funds, and follow the 4% rule. The basic idea is that you need around 25 times your annual expenses invested. If you want to spend $40,000 a year, you need about $1 million. Traditional FIRE is not flashy, it is not fast. But it works because it relies on savings, compounding, and time. For a $100,000 earner, this usually lands around year 15 to 18. So we will place it at year 16. The second strategy is entrepreneur FIRE. Instead of saving your way to freedom, you build a business. That could be e-commerce, software, content, consulting, an agency, or any scalable business. If you build something valuable and sell it for $1.5 million or $2 million, you could reach financial independence in 3 to 5 years. But this is the wildest strategy on the list. It can be the fastest path, but also the easiest to fail. Some people build a company and sell it quickly. Others work for years and make nothing. So we put entrepreneur FIRE at year 3 with a giant asterisk. The third strategy is coast FIRE. Coast FIRE means you save aggressively early, reach a checkpoint, and then stop contributing to retirement. Your existing investments continue compounding in the background, while you only earn enough to cover your current lifestyle. You are not fully retired, but you no longer need to save for the future. You can take a lower-stress job, work fewer hours, or choose work you actually enjoy. For someone young with a high savings rate, coast FIRE can happen surprisingly early. We place it around year 7. The fourth strategy is digital nomad FIRE. This is not about fully quitting work. It is about creating remote income and designing your life around freedom. You might freelance, consult, run an online business, or work remotely while living in a lower-cost country or city. You are still earning money, but you are no longer chained to a traditional office. You may work fewer hours, live somewhere cheaper, and enjoy more flexibility. Now, instead of waiting decades, we place digital nomad FIRE around year 8. The fifth strategy is extreme frugality FIRE. This is the fastest savings based path. You cut spending to the lowest sustainable level. Roommates, no car payment, no subscriptions, cheap groceries, minimal lifestyle inflation. If you earn $100,000 and live on $25,000 to $30,000 a year, your retirement number becomes much smaller. Spending $30,000 a year means you need roughly $750,000 invested. This can work in about 9 to 10 years, but the trade-off is obvious. You must be willing to live this way long-term. We place it at year 9. The sixth strategy is Barista FIRE. This is semi-retirement. You build enough investments to cover most of your expenses, then work a flexible part-time job to cover the gap. If you need $50,000 a year and can earn $20,000 from part-time work, your portfolio only needs to cover $30,000. That means your target number drops significantly. The part-time job could be at a coffee shop, golf course, library, ski resort, or seasonal business. The key is flexibility, lower stress, and possibly health benefits. We place Barista FIRE around year 10 or 11. The seventh strategy is hybrid FIRE. Hybrid FIRE is similar, but instead of a simple part-time job, you combine investments with flexible skilled income. Maybe you consult a few months per year, freelance, run a small side business, or take project-based work. It gives more freedom, but the income is less predictable. We place it around years 12 to 14. The eighth strategy is geo-arbitrage FIRE. This means earning money in a high-income location and spending it in a lower-cost location. You might keep a remote job based in San Francisco, New York, or Seattle, but live somewhere much cheaper. If you reduce annual spending from $60,000 to $35,000, your retirement target drops from $1.5 million to $875,000. You did not earn more. You changed the math. We place Geo Arbitrage FIRE around years 11 to 13. The ninth strategy is expat FIRE. This is the long-term version of Geo Arbitrage. Instead of temporarily moving somewhere cheaper, you relocate abroad permanently, or semi-permanently. You may need visas, local banking, healthcare planning, tax planning, and cultural adjustment. It can be powerful, but it requires lifestyle flexibility. It also lands around years 11 to 13. The 10th strategy is Lean FIRE. Lean FIRE is a more sustainable version of extreme frugality. You still live simply, but not painfully. You cook at home, control housing costs, avoid waste, but still allow occasional restaurants, budget travel, or a gym membership. If you spend around $40,000 a year, your target portfolio is about $1 million. This usually takes around 13 to 15 years. The 11th strategy is Real Estate FIRE. Instead of relying only on index funds, you build rental property cash flow. The common starting point is house hacking, buying a duplex or small multifamily property, living in one unit, and renting the others. Rent helps cover the mortgage, and over time you repeat the process. Eventually, rental income can cover your lifestyle. But this is not passive in the way people imagine. You deal with tenants, repairs, vacancies, insurance, and debt. You may retire from your job, but become a landlord. We place it around year 15. The 12th strategy is Dividend FIRE. This is where you build a portfolio of dividend, paying stocks or funds and live off the income without selling shares. If you want $50,000 a year and your portfolio yields 4%, you need about $1.25 million. This often takes longer than traditional FIRE, but many people love the psychology of receiving cash flow without selling principal. We place Dividend FIRE around year 22. The 13th strategy is Pension FIRE. This comes from government, military, union, or certain corporate jobs where you work long enough to earn a defined benefit pension. It is not exciting, but it can be stable. You trade career flexibility for guaranteed income later. We place Pension FIRE around year 25. The 14th strategy is Slow FIRE. This is probably the most realistic strategy for most people. You save 15 to 20% of your income, invest consistently, and still enjoy your life along the way. You may not retire at 35, but you might retire at 57, 58, or 59 instead of 67. It is not dramatic, but it is sustainable. We place Slow FIRE around year 27. The 15th strategy is Fat FIRE. Fat FIRE is financial independence with a luxury lifestyle. Instead of spending $40,000 or $50,000 a year, you might spend $100,000, $200,000, or more. This usually requires $5 million to $10 million or more. It is realistic for high earners, business owners, executives, doctors with practices, or people with successful equity exits. For a normal $100,000 earner, it is very difficult unless income rises dramatically. Fat FIRE lands around year 28 to 35, or beyond the timeline. So here's the real lesson. Early retirement is not one path. It is a menu. If you want speed, you need risk. If you want stability, you need time. If you want flexibility, you may choose digital nomad, hybrid, or Barista FIRE. If you want lower costs, Geo Arbitrage or expat FIRE may change everything. If you want cash flow, dividends or real estate may appeal to you. But the goal is not simply to stop working. The goal is to stop being forced to live a life you do not want. Financial independence is not about copying someone else's perfect spreadsheet. It is about building enough freedom to choose your own life.